Hey, what's up, Crown Nation? Welcome to Rock the Crown. It's your girl and your queen, Naima, with my queen, Nefertari.
How
So
y'all
today,
doing tonight?
that's right. And let's just clap it up for 2023. Okay, let's clap it up.
Yes.
Because today is the last day of 2023. And I'm sure some of
You
you are like,
believe
what happened? What happened?
it.
It is
For sure.
OV. It's over. 2023 is all the way heading out the door. We are less than 5 hours away from 2024. And if you're my age, you're like, is this the Jetsons? Because on the Jetsons, you talked about 2023 and 2024. And I'm
I
feeling like
know
the
it seemed
Jetsons
so
right
far
now.
away, didn't it? It seems
It
so
did
far
seem
away.
far away.
You know,
And here we are.
said,
And
no.
here we are. So we want to go ahead before we continue on with the show and wish everyone a happy new year. May your families be blessed. May your careers, your businesses be blessed. May your health be blessed. And may your communities be blessed, because we know that in 2024, Allah has something in store for us. We've gone through COVID, and we've gone through after COVID, and really 2023 was the year where a lot of people came out
Come
for the
back.
first time ever, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're going into 2024, and what we want to say is it is something new in store for 2024. So super excited for everyone and all of
Kind
you.
of rhyme.
Yeah,
There is something new in store for
yes,
2024.
yes,
Yay.
yes, honey, yes. So today, speaking of things in store, we want to talk about the flourishing life, because this is something that is in store for everyone as they move forward in 2024. And we're first going to start off talking about what the word flourishing means, because I don't hear people really using this term anymore. Do you, Nefertari?
Flourishing.
Yeah.
I actually, when we started talking about, I was like, that's actually a good word. We were talking about words the other day for the new year.
Yes.
And I was like, I think I'm gonna have to put that on my list.
I love it. I love it.
Resilience is my word for the year. Resilience is my top
Yes.
word for the year.
Yes.
Flourishing.
And one
I
of
like
my
that.
top words for the year is consistency, momentum, and of course, life and purpose is also my two words. Did I say life, or did I say, yeah, something like that? Yeah, all that good stuff. Okay, anyway, let's get back to I'm sorry. Let's get back to talking about the word flourishing. So the word flourishing itself means developing rapidly and successfully. Developing rapidly and successfully. It means that you are thriving. And I think that sometimes we forget that we can flourish, meaning doing something rapidly, and that we can be successful at it. So, this is why we wanted to talk about the flourishing life, because it's so many things that you can put in place that can make your life flourish. And what does flourishing include, Nefertari?
Look, I've got loved ones that just came in town, and so I checked out for a split second. So y'all
Okay, it's all
forgive me.
good.
But like my slime. All right, so that's the real live right there.
Okay, that's the real life. Your life is flourishing over there. Okay.
Oh,
Love
yes.
it. Love it.
So the real flourishing, like when you talk about just thinking about what to do throughout to how to get to that, there's well, I know this is not what you were looking for, but I want to actually talk about this, because when you say this, it takes my mind to, I've got this coach.
I love it.
And she's gone through this program in the past year, and we all need to have a coach of some sort, some sense, or a mentor. And everyone who is successful in whatever it is that they do, whether you're an entrepreneur, in most cases you'll find it in people in that area. You need to have somebody there to help coach you through, no matter how great you are, or if you're just getting started and you need a lot of guidance. So when you say flourish, to me, my mind is really going to just all of the goals and the visions and the things that I have in my mind that I want to have set for this year. And
Yeah.
so flourishing to me is getting your mindset together. Mindset is everything.
Yeah.
Flourishing to me means getting people on your team because you can't do it by yourself. Uh,
Yes.
flourishing to me is setting your standards at a certain level. For my own self, it's my thing has been uh understanding your worth, because a lot of times we know what we're capable of. It's not that we have like low self-esteem, but when you really like sit down and look at it, I mean, some of my coaching sessions was like, man, real thought-provoking.
Right. We gotta
And
talk about that, coach. We need to bring her on.
yeah. Yeah, so it's just really good. So if you guys haven't heard about the Lady Khadijah Institute, that's just a shout out to her for that. Naima's definitely getting her thing kicked off. And she's
Alhamdulillah.
always been really good with talking to different people and their businesses or family life way or whatever it is. And so in my mind, flourishing is just, and so we're going to talk about later in the show. Actually, we're going to discuss 12 different steps that'll kind of help you push through a lot of things. So, some of the challenges we may have as being a wife, being a mom, some of these, business person, whatever it is that you're doing, no matter what relationship, all of these tips or these things can help you in those areas. So,
Yes. And flourishing also includes, of course, positive emotions. Positive emotions,
mhm,
mental and physical health. Flourishing includes meaning and purpose in life. You can do it in a way that is thriving, but it has to have meaning and purpose in your life in order for you to thrive. Uh, uh, it also
close
includes close
relationship.
relationships. Yes.
Mhm,
Often virtues like wisdom, courage, kindness, those things they also include in flourishing. So these are some of the things that we want you all to think about as you're planning your 2024 goals. And one thing that I think is also important is, like, goals are one thing, but ask yourself, who do you want to be in 2024?
mhm,
Because the goals bump up to what kind of person you're going to be in 2024. So thinking about, man, what kind of character do I want to have? What kind of how do I want my family life to be? What kind of wife or mother or sister, friend, husband,
mhm,
son, daughter, all of these different things. What kind of person do you want to be in that way? How do I want to set up my money? How do I
mhm,
want my money to work for me? How is my money? Am I putting my money together to create legacy, not just wealth, but
right,
legacy, right? And then how am I finding more joy in my life
mhm,
and becoming this new person, right? Becoming this new person. And then, am I living the life that I want to live because I am setting myself up to say, I want to be this particular kind of person? And is that person's legacy going to be something that can resonate and really continue to have the type of Sadaqah Juwaria that we all want,
mhm.
everlasting blessings until the day of judgment? So yes, that's something to think about.
That is definitely the goal. I woke up this morning, you wake up and you just kind of sit and thought. And that was one of my things, just thinking about like this life is, we're just passing through. And actually,
Yeah.
even today, I went to Janaza today. Um, and you think about and even as you were talking just now, these are all the things you think about as far as we talked about relationship or work or, whatever certain roles, being the close relationships that you have. We're talking about courage and kindness. Like, it's amazing how far things will take you with when you're being kind to a person. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like it
Mhm.
makes you feel good that with your kindness, but then also it makes the other person feel good. And we know one of the simplest forms of pains a cat or charity rather is smiling, right? And so just you
Yes.
smiling and laughing is contagious, and it'll make somebody
Yes.
else smile, right?
Yes.
So smile big. So anyway, I'm thinking about just this life and how we're just passing through. And so some of these things, however we can help ourselves and help other people that, and then not only, I was talking to my 9-year-old the other day about how, once you're gone, we think about the blessings that we still can receive once we leave this world. And so I
Yes.
talked to him about, one of the things like, if you wrote a book and people are still benefiting from that book, then these are blessings, or just your family just continuing prayers for you, or whatever it is.
Yes.
These are blessings that you still can get. Inshallah, Allah raises you up even higher in a place. And so, flourishing. We're talking about flourishing in this life, but then we still have the next life, and you can continue that
Yes.
flourishing, what you do here and how that helps you in the next life. And as we hear a lot of the imams say, certain things you can't take with you.
That's right. That's
That's not
right.
gonna help you.
That's right. I love
So
that.
we definitely in everything that we do, as we take the journey on living the life in a flourishing way.
Yes. And I was listening to some motivational kind of like there's this thing called Motiversary on YouTube, and I listen to it like especially when I run, right? And so
Hmm.
one of the things that they were saying in one of the motivational, because it's about 30 to 45 minutes, but one of the things that they were saying is that the guy was talking about, he was like, man, you need to do something so impactful. So you need to be in this life so impactful that the church is too full. They can't let one more body in the church. And just even thinking about that, like even in the mosque, right? And so
Hmm.
I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, live every day as if this was your last day, but also as if
Yes.
you're going to live 1,000 years. And I was
Yes.
like, man, I got to step it up. I got to
Hmm.
step it up. I need to make sure that, and not that you want to be famous, but that you want to make impact in this life. And that Allah has brought us here to make impact, right? And this
Hmm.
is so important in terms of like even flourishing. Flourishing is thriving in a way that it has impact. It's like
Hmm.
sometimes I think people think of it in a small way, like, you can make an impact even in your family. And one thing that I was thinking about this week is like how moms have such a trust and an impact that we were kind of like given children. This is a trust by Allah. And sometimes we don't realize the great impact that we can make on the world with just being a mom.
That's right. That's right. We have a
It's like
special
so
job.
powerful. Yes, it's so powerful. So I want to encourage women, like, don't keep thinking of yourself as minimal. Like, if you
Mhm.
have children, then Allah has given you something so great, and He knows that you can make impact. And you have to think about how you're going to, number one, continue to work with the trust with your children that He has given you, and how you are going to impact yourself and them every
Mhm.
single day. Not today, I don't feel like it. No, 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 no. We got to get out of that. We have to get in the mode and say, yeah, Allah, I know I trust in you, Allah. I trust in whatever you have put into me, and give me the courage and strength to wake up to do something today that is going to make impact. So, so, so
Mhm.
impactful. Okay, we're going to go into an ayat that basically talks about flourishing, right?
Mhm.
So, but seek, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, but seek through that which Allah has given to you, the home of the hereafter, and do not forget your share of the world. And some people
Mhm.
would say of the hereafter. And do good as Allah has done good to you, and desire not corruption in the land. Indeed, Allah does not like the corruptors.
Mhm.
So this here ayat has so many jewels in it. 4 or 5 sentences, so many jewels in it. So when we talk about flourishing, and Allah says, but seek through that which Allah has given you. He's already given you some things,
That's right.
right? And you
Mhm.
have to recognize those things that He has given to you. And as you recognize them, He also says, and the home of the hereafter. So I think that sometimes when we think about these things, we're like, oh yeah, get your share of this life and the hereafter. We really focus on get your share of this life, but we
Mhm.
forget about the share of the hereafter. And the share of the hereafter has to be impacted in this life. So what
Mhm.
we do every single day, we should be focusing on, man, is this a part of my hereafter? And if I think if we think of that in a better in that way, we'll make better decisions, right? We'll be able to make
Yes.
decisions.
One of the other things came to my mind as you were speaking to that. Imam Omar Suleiman, he did like a whole series on Jannah and the afterlife, and it's amazing. Just the things that anything beautiful that we can imagine in this world,
Mhm.
it's like way above that, and then some in the hereafter, inshallah.
Yes,
So,
inshallah.
we think about the beautiful gardens and rivers flowing. There's a lot described in the Quran, and it's like we could see that, and I'm a person that loves outdoors, and I don't know, it could be
Yes.
connected that too. So it's like, the way the moon glows at night, and all of those little details is all about Allah's creation. And so imagine, and we feel that way on this side, like
Mm.
we only getting a little glimpse of what beautiful it really is. So
Yes. Yes.
creations.
Alhamdulillah. But this verse in this ayat, it has like two famous scholars. Basically, they view this the interpretation of this verse in a different way. Do you want to kind of explain what those interpretations are?
Yeah, so the first view actually is do not forget your share of what Allah has permitted you to do in this world as far as food and drink and clothing, housing,
Mm-hmm.
marriage. Your
Mm-hmm.
Lord has the right over you. And your own self has the right over you as well. A lot of
Yes.
times we don't know your body has rights, but your own self has the right for you as well, and your wife has a right over you. So this is one of the views. When you say do not forget your share in this world of what Allah has permitted you to in this world. So Allah has
Yes.
given us the food, He's given us the drink, the clothing, the house, He's given us our spouses. So and then in our own selves. So we have a right
Yes.
over ourselves. Our
Yes.
spouses have a right over us. And so these are some of the things that this is one of the views of
Yeah.
not
And
forget.
it's also important to note that when we're talking about these things also that Allah has given us, it is halal, meaning
Mhm.
that when you start uh, exchanging the halal for the non-halal, that's a problem because Allah says, yes, here is food and drink. And then you turn around and say, okay, I'm going to eat or drink these things that are not halal. So we really have
Mhm.
to focus on, hopefully in 2024, looking, if we want our life to flourish, the things,
Mhm.
we were talking yesterday, we did basically Rock the Crown. We did our vision board session yesterday, and we were
Yeah.
talking about um, I was sharing with the group that the things that you feed grow and the
Mhm.
things that you starve die. And so when you start thinking about living a life in a flourishing way, flourishing means that you are feeding it specific things. And so you want to make sure that you're feeding things that are halal and
Right.
not focusing on the haram. And
Mhm.
we don't want the halal haram police to be, chasing us down in 2024, but also understanding what haram really means in Islam. Haram
Right.
means that it is unlawful and that a punishment should be instituted for that specific thing. So
Mhm.
when people say watching TV, that's haram, what's the punishment?
Hmm.
Right? When people say, "Oh, that sister got that dress on," that's haram. Come on now, people. Come on. We have to
Mm.
we have to do better about making sure that we're using terms in their correct way and that we're understanding what these terms mean in Arabic and what the actual punishment is if the act is punishable. Some things
Right.
are not recommended, but there's no punishment that is instituted with specific acts. So we do want to make sure that we're doing that as well. Okay,
So with
Anthony,
what so with
what
what
does
you were
that mean?
saying, what you were saying, we had another insert on Imam Malik, which so even though we talk about being um halal versus the haram, he
Yes,
also says it means living, eating, and drinking without imposing unnecessary restrictions on oneself. So I was just thinking,
I love that.
yeah, so even though it's that, you have to make sure, like, without imposing restrictions on oneself, but at the same time you have to know your barriers, your foundation,
Yes.
just like what you were just speaking on, you know, the
Mhm.
things that are good for you, the things that you eat and drink. And sometimes we think like, you know, it's not just about having alcohol or drugs or eating certain foods that, but like you really have to dig even deeper than that. Sometimes, you know, maybe you might eat too much sugary things or, you
A
know,
lot of
just too much
times.
junk food or, you know, that kind of thing. That kind of falls in the same. So like eating the things that are good for you, you know.
Yes.
Um, and so and these days, sometimes we be trying to eat good and be like, oh, that ain't good for you. That ain't good. You know, even fruits and vegetables. Oh, it's too much acidity in this or too much of that. So, but seeking a balance. So
Yes.
that's another thing. Like just having a balance with whatever it is that you're eating, you know, whatever we do in life, just having a balance. So unnecessary restrictions on oneself, do it without imposing unnecessary restrictions on yourself.
Yes. 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 And then thinking about that, when we're thinking about striving for the hereafter, it's during your entire lifespan that you're doing that. It
Mhm.
isn't when you get, oh, I'm 40 now. Now I'm gonna really
Yes.
focus on Allah. Oh, I'm 50. I'm 65.
Life
No, it is your,
begins.
right. It is your entire lifespan. And so one thing we want to remind people is that when a person becomes of the age of mukhalif, meaning that they are responsible for themselves, they know how to make good decisions, that's when the lifespan of thriving for the hereafter begins, right?
Mhm.
And so we want to make sure that we are doing things again that are pleasing to Allah. And what I used to tell my sons, they're all in their 20s, they're almost in their 30s. Girl, woo, woo, shocked me a little bit, but they're all in their 20s, right? And one thing that I used to tell them, I don't care if you lie because I mean, guess
Mhm.
what? Allah is
Because
gonna bring
somebody
that
else
lie back
has
up
to.
because a lie has a tail, and every time you lie, guess what? It has a tail, and it's gonna come back because you have to keep a lie
Mhm.
up, right? And
Mhm.
I would always tell them, if you can't tell me the reason, because well, okay, what I would say is, if you can't tell that to Allah, then don't tell it to me. So if you're
Mhm.
making an excuse and you can't tell that to Allah on the day of judgment, then don't tell me, right? And that really helps them check their actions. It's like, yeah, you take that up with Allah, because if you take it up with Allah first, the individual between them and their Lord, it really has nothing to do with you, the person,
Mhm.
as a parent or anything like that. We're always constantly reminding ourselves and our children, hey, Allah is first. That's where your
Mhm.
first priority should be. And thriving for the hereafter is between you and Allah.
And you know, even when we think nobody else is watching, that's one of the other things I used to tell my children. Like, you know, it's always like, just know Allah's watching. You know, we have to remind our own selves. Like, you think
Yeah,
somebody don't see you? It's like
right.
Allah is
You're in
watching.
the cut, but Allah's
Uh,
in the cut too. He's like, I see you. I love it. Okay, so
so,
go ahead.
so I was just gonna say another area. So we do not instruct you to give of all your wealth in charity and leave yourself destitute. Rather spend of your hereafter and enjoy your life in this world in such a way that you will not harm your faith or your hereafter.
Yes.
So this is funny, as this is another conversation I was having with my son the other day. He was telling me another one of his classmates had her own business. And I said, yeah, I
Mm,
know she sells jewelry, right? And he said, yeah. I said, well, you know, we've been talking about him getting his little thing going and maybe starting with t-shirts. And so
yes.
as kind of started talking about money. And so I'm thinking about this when I'm talking about wealth and charity and getting your share. So I was just explaining to him. And even when you, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. At the masjid Friday, he brought himself a samosa. It was $3. First of all, he didn't understand why does it cost $3. He said he thought it was a little bit much. He said, but what did he say? So after he bought it, he just felt so satisfied. There was like this feeling that he had. And he was so
Yes.
confident and grateful and thankful that, and it was like, I did this, like, you know, alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
And so I'm telling him, and this is a 9-year-old. So I'm telling him about, you know, as we're talking about his setting up his business, I said, and you have to save some money, spend some money, you give some money to charity. So I'm like talking to him about this. And so this is one of the things that we learn when we talked earlier about us being our first teachers for our children and how we have the power to change the world. Like this is
Yes.
what we do. You teach your young ones, and inshallah, they are able to take that and develop and grow up. So here is where we're talking about your giving your wealth. and at the same time not giving so much so where you don't have a balance and you leave your own self destitute.
Right.
So flourishing in a way where you got to be able to take care of yourself, right, in order to give to anybody. So we talk about, the hand on the bottom. We don't want to be that hand. We want to be the hand on the top. Sometimes you have to be the hand on the bottom, and that's okay, but you don't want to stay there. And
Yes.
so, but being able to give, and this is something, we talked about kindness earlier and how we feel good when we're giving. This is another thing. Giving of your wealth gives you a good feeling because you're helping someone else.
Yes. Hmm. And also, when you start thinking about giving and charity, of course, smiling is charity, but thinking about volunteering as
Mhm.
charity because it's your time. Anything that's any charity can also be perceived as anything that you find of value that you're willing to
Mhm.
let go of.
Right.
Because the sense of, man, I want to give this to someone else because it is of value for me. That's a beautiful
Mhm.
thing when it comes to charity. And so, just hopefully for 2024, people are thinking about ways in which they can be charitable. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's giving away those beautiful clothes that you don't wear anymore, but they're sitting in the closet, or giving
Mhm.
away those books that you have just sitting on the shelf and they've been there for 20 years.
Mhm.
Somebody could be reading those books, you know what I'm saying? Because even in charity, when you start thinking about zakat, those things have to be calculated, even if you're not
Mhm.
using them. And so this goes on to that's a whole nother situation, but we can really talk about how expansive. That's why Islam is like a lifestyle. Islam is our way of life because everything is has a everything is connected in so much that everything we think, do, process is connected to something else when it comes to our religion, and it's just so beautiful. So living a life in a flourishing way, the acts of charity, you're giving the acts of charity, and in
Mhm.
some kind of way, acts of charity are being received back to you because
Mhm.
other people are doing that. So it's very cyclical. I love
Yes.
that. The act of charity.
Another way of looking at what you say, when we speak, saying when we step towards Allah, make steps toward Allah, that makes even more steps toward us. And
Yes.
so that's another part of it. Like when we do these acts, this is given, this is you as a servant to Allah, you're doing, and you're acting, and you're coming toward him. You're taking steps toward good. You're taking steps toward him. And so he's like, I see that you're doing that, and I'm going to take even more steps towards you. And we see that like almost instantly sometimes when you do a
Instantly.
kind act, or when you give something, or you treat somebody kindly, and you almost can just see it come right back. So
Yeah.
um,
With the right intention. Let's say that. Because
yes,
sometimes people have the intention that, oh, I'm gonna give $1 and Allah's gonna give me $10. It doesn't work like that. So making sure that our
that's true.
intentions are pure. We have to like remind
Yes.
ourselves, like,
Mhm.
purify your intention. What the return you get on that investment is because your intention is pure. It's
That's
not
a
because
whole
you did it.
that's a whole nother show right there, just talking
That's
about
oh no,
intention.
okay,
Yeah,
we can
yeah,
do
we
that.
think about it.
We got to do that. Your intentions. It'd be
Because
all wrong.
yeah, because even the flip side of that, when you make an intention to do something, and for whatever reason you don't get a chance to do that, Allah still blesses you for that. And but it goes
Yes.
back to the pure intentions of it, that Allah will
Yes.
still bless you for that. And so it's just a beautiful thing.
Right. And intention not to be seen.
Yes.
Those kind of things. So yeah, that's how you can tell when something is so beautiful and pure, because it again is flourishing. It
Mhm.
resonates, it grows. It's just always there's so much beauty in that. So I
Mhm.
love that the whole concept of that we're continuing to talk about flourishing. And now we want to go into 12. Is it 12? 12ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Ways to have a flourishing life. How to flourish, period. This is how you're going to flourish. Number one, number one.
So
Always,
important.
even Allah says this in the
Yes.
Quran. It says,
All over the place.
practice gratitude, right?
Mhm.
Allah says, if you are grateful, I will give you more. And so
Yes.
practicing gratitude, and meaning he's going to give you more because you are sincere in your gratitude. Now, yeah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. You know how like we just shuck it off, right? People do stuff and you alhamdulillah, but no, really. be
Mhm.
grateful to Allah. Alhamdulillah. You say,
Mhm.
oh, shukr Allah, oh, Allahu Akbar, all those different things that terms that we use to uplift Allah and to be in service and in gratitude to Allah.
Mm.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Yes. Number one, practice gratitude. Gratitude journal. Uh,
Mhm.
Gratitude, whether one thing that I do is when I go to bed, when I lay my head on the pillow, I tell Allah three things that I'm grateful for that day. And I make it every single time. I'm tired, but I'm always making sure before I go to bed, I am practicing gratitude. Oh Allah,
Mhm.
thank you for that stopping me on the street before I got ran over by the car. Oh
Oh
Allah,
my goodness.
any
Yes.
small thing, I always make sure that I'm bringing up the gratitude before I go to bed. So gratitude, showing it every single day. So think for 2024 how you can find time to show gratitude, whether it's in a journal, whether it's saying it out loud to yourself in the morning, evening, or whatever. But finding gratitude in life, and then also exercises can be done with yourself, your partner, your children, your friends, your community members. So finding gratitude in that way and exercising it with everyone that comes in contact with you.
And I just want to put a plug in. Over the years, I've used the book, The Magic. And so it actually is a really good exercise. And some of what you talked about is like, it's something different that you do every day for 28, 29 days. And, they say it takes 30 days to form a habit. And so the goal is to get through those days. But consistency and persistency is very important. So when you say I do it every night, that you
Yes.
say that before you go to bed, I have to be honest. Sometimes some days get skipped, when I'm trying to really focus on certain things and I'll get started. And a lot of us, we
Mhm,
start things and stop things. But,
mhm.
my encouragement to you is just to pick it up and just keep trying to go and just keep doing it until it just keeps being consistent so much.
Yes.
Keep consistent until it's consistent. That's what it is.
Yes.
But yes, and then even like outside of Naima, we talk about journaling and speaking your gratitude. Sometimes even just writing, your journaling, whatever comes to your mind, but then also writing your things that you're grateful for down, like literally writing them down. And I know you mentioned
Yes.
like the small things, but sometimes people only can think of those big things like, well, what am I grateful for? Like really dig deep and look
I
at
can
those itty
see it.
bitty things. Like, yeah. So even like in the book, it would talk about some of the things like it's like, oh, you think
I
because
can
you say,
breathe.
yeah, yeah. And like you're saying please and thank you. Oh, I'm grateful for that. But it's like that's the stuff on the surface. So,
Yeah.
and one of the, like how we have the toothpaste, whatever kind of toothpaste we use, and you're thinking about how you got that and the people that helped to create it and whatever
Yes.
company, whatever. And so even starting to say in your mind, like, I'm grateful for, the people that created this toothpaste or whatever, or them,
Yes.
wherever it's coming from, you really thinking about everything and all the parts and pieces that go to you being able to put that toothpaste on that toothbrush and brush them teeth that need it.
That's right.
Grateful for your toothpaste. So like
Being
even
grateful for
something
this
that's small.
cotton on this shirt.
That's right.
'Cause I'm warm right now. Alhamdulillah.
And like you
Okay.
said, of course, our five senses, sometimes we take that for granted,
Take that for granted.
so
I'm
we
deaf
don't
in
have
one ear, so
like
I totally
you can't
understand that.
operate with your hand anymore. So
Yes.
gratitude is definitely a big thing.
Yes.
We
Yes.
highly
Big
encourage
time.
that to be able to
Hmm.
flourish for 2024. Okay.
Yes. Hmm.
So the second one is building a better social relationship. So this is where we want to be developing healthy relationships, because this is one of the best things that you can do in order to flourish. So we kind of spoke a
Yes.
little bit about relationships earlier. Sometimes this is the most the thing uh, that we might have missing that can help create health and happiness.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
so this, for example, social connections, it has been shown to be one of the strongest predictors of mortality.
Yes.
You know, and this is why investing in our relationships is so important. So,
Hmm.
just having better relationships. We know we've all been in relationships where, we've got really good relationships, and not just male or female, but just relationships in general, with your
Yes.
friends, with whoever. But, even as couples, sometimes we may be in a relationship that just really, take you all the way out somewhere.
Yeah.
Talk about the determinant, detriment of, sometimes the you know, things that
Yeah.
relationships can do, on the
Right.
heart, everything, it can take you, mentally to a place
Yeah.
where we really have to pay
That's
attention to those things.
unhealthy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's so interesting because some of the things that we're talking about now is similar to what I was talking about at Talim today. And it
Hmm.
was basically we were talking about like social connections and how studies have shown that women that have relationships, your ability to live longer can extend up to 30 years longer. And we
If
know
you
that
do what?
women have long relationships, right? But sometimes you'll see that the men are lacking when it comes to relationships, but they have
Yes.
a certain part of the country or the world where men live just as long as women. And so they did a study on why is this? And it's because the men, they had regular social activities with each other. And
Mm.
this is something in
Um,
America that you really don't see amongst men sometimes. You don't see them hanging out and, doing things together
mhm.
regularly. Like every now and then, oh, I'm going to go down and I'm going to hang out with my boys. But, regular relationships is something that I'm highly encouraging for men in 2024. Again, so that it's not just women that are living long, men are living long too.
Because sometimes when we as sisters get together and do different things, sometimes the men are looking, they feel a little left out. I think it's maybe the order and the structure or the thinking of the planning where they might need a little help with that. So I
Right.
think some of them really do want to have those kind of things, but it's like, who gonna put this together?
Right. That part.
I remember some years ago, I was like, when you talk about even just having close relationships like friends, like I'm so thankful to a lot that my husband has like close friends now that I'm like, you need to go figure out something and go hang out or go call or and a lot of times even for them it's kind of business is connected. Like, okay,
Yeah.
even if you got to start there, that's good.
That's right.
And so,
Always
but
start somewhere.
definitely relationships for men and relationships, I could see the truth in that,
Yes,
so
I'm thinking
important,
that.
so important.
Right. And so the next thing of how to flourish is to savor. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that most of you are thinking about that meal that we eat on a regular basis, that food that we love so much. But no, savoring something is a way to flourish because savoring is a positive experience by thinking about happy events, by sharing or celebrating something good with others, or paying more attention to positive emotional experiences. And so when something good happens to you, just sit on it. That's when you
Mhm.
savor it. Just sit on it and just say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, and just
Mhm.
take in the whole experience, the whole moment. And sometimes I want to encourage people also in 2024, as you're living this flourishing life and you're using Savor as a tool, when you go to an event, put the phone down.
Mhm.
The
Be in the
picture is
moment.
gonna be there. Somebody is gonna be taking the pictures. There'll be videos and things like that. Savor the moment.
Yes.
Sometimes people are so focused on looking through the camera of their phone, they're not even present at the event. It's like, you're here, right? So I'm
Mhm, mhm.
encouraging people to do that when it comes to savoring events and experiences. And again, those happy feelings will last even longer because you're doing that.
Ah, so the next one is imagining your best possible self. You know, thinking about your ideal life or your best possible version of yourself. So, I love this. My brother uses that you know, saying all the time about being the better version of yourself, like growing into the
Mhm.
better version of yourself. So
Yeah.
this actually increases happiness,
Mhm.
satisfaction. uh this is one of the most important elements of flourishing. So that's our topic
Yes.
today. Like, don't forget, that's what we're talking about. Flourishing, how to flourish in 2024. So imagining your best possible self. You know, you've ever heard that well, we know we've heard the quote of, God ain't done with me yet,
Yes.
or I'm not where
Yes.
I used to be, even though I'm not where I want to be now, I'm not where I used to be. You can see that growth and development. So even though you're not there, just imagine your best possible self. Like
Yes.
it's almost like actually thinking about, you know, it's already done. Just say it's done. It's
Yeah.
already done. Speak it into existence in a way. Um, and of course, with thinking about your possible your imagining your best possible self and imagining that it's already there, even when it's not. This helps the mindset.
Yes.
You
That's
have to
mhm.
believe, which is one of the things, we'll talk about. I think it's probably one of the last things, but yeah, you have to believe. So imagining your best possible self. That's
Yes,
another.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And in being your best possible self, think of the next one is doing random acts of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my things. I love random acts of kindness, right? I'm always like telling people, go do such and such and such and share it with somebody else. Or, make a prayer that you want for yourself and then give it to somebody else so that they can actually pray for it for 30 days. Or,
Mm-hmm.
hey, who do you want to be in 2024? I did that for the We Did That party. I encouraged women
Mm-hmm.
to, hey, who do you want to be in 2024? Write that person out. And then at the bottom, tell a woman, hey, this is who I want to be in 2024, and you can be
Mm-hmm.
that too. And then just hand it off to somebody. You never
Yeah.
know who is in what situation and who needs an upliftment. But random acts of kindness, meaning that you're helping someone if they fall, or you are giving someone some change if they're at the cashier, and they don't have enough money and they just need
Mm-hmm.
that $1.24, or someone is they've been ill and they can't mow their grass, and then you have a lawnmower and you're mowing your grass and you're in the next door neighbor and you just decide, hey, what, I'm gonna go ahead and just mow their grass as well. So many things that you can do that you normally wouldn't do to help others is what makes it random. So, thinking of things that you normally wouldn't do, but it has so many positive effects. And
Mm-hmm.
it creates aspects of flourishing like happiness. And again, flourishing has a lot to do with these emotions and how happiness and goodness starts to feel. Those feels are like, yes, I'm doing this in a flourishing way. And that leads to the term that we were talking about earlier, how flourishing is, it's successful. When you're happy, it's usually because something has been successful. And that's something to think about, that these acts can even inspire others to do what you're doing. And when it comes to random acts of kindness.
And you kind of spoke a little bit on our next one because it's an act of kindness, but volunteering.
Mhm.
Volunteering, this is a form of act of kindness and flourishing. This provides a sense of social connection. We think about, one of the things, a lot of times, often what comes to our mind is feeding the homeless when we think about
Yeah.
volunteering, helping, like,
Mhm.
those who are less fortunate. But one of the
Yeah.
other things that also came to my mind is for our seniors. Sometimes whether they're sick or you're just going by and it's not that they're sick or anything's wrong, but they just move a little slower, or certain things they just can't get done as good, to have somebody come over with some, a little spunk, a little youthness to them, or somebody
Yeah.
with a little bit more muscle, just those kind of things. And they leave you feeling good that, oh, whether you opened this door for this lady that you saw come in and whatever.
Yeah.
I had an experience in the store the other day. This is a little bit more so on the acts of kindness instead of the volunteering, but when you talk about just seeing that somebody might need something. So we've all seen those experiences at the cash register where
Mhm.
somebody's having a problem with paying for their stuff. And so
Yeah.
this lady, she was like, it was way more than $1, but she was there, and it just was not, and I was like, wow, like, it just took me back. Like, I was single with
Yeah.
6 children, and she was like, the money's there. And so using another system, and then the system still wouldn't work for her. So she's like, she got to go get cash. And not only that, she's got to go to this particular bank to get the cash. And then I go,
Yeah.
you know what? Let me just take care of this for her. And I don't know. It's just like when you talk about that gratitude, that feeling of, not that I was doing it but people were looking at me like, you just did that. But it's like the feeling that you get when you help
Yeah.
people, like,
When you
and
help
then I'm
people,
like,
yes.
hey. And so, but being able to volunteer is the same thing. And so
Yeah.
this thing, whether you believe it or not, it's gonna help you flourish. So I try to tell, I keep going back to my 9-year-old because he's the one I'm in training. with now. Because
Right.
he had a half a burger left, and he's like, he didn't want to give his daddy none. Right. He was like, not even an itty bitty piece. So I'm just gonna say, whatever it is you got.
Share with others.
But look, which reminds me now of the name Enough Food to Share, at the Atlanta Masjid. Like there's always
Yeah,
enough to share, like, right? So
always.
volunteering, which is another thing that you can do, volunteering. Go help Enough Food to Share. They're every third Wednesday, I believe, at the Masjid. So look for those different outlets and things that you can do in so many different ways for 2024 and show
Yes.
up in a way where you just have never done before. Make this year greater than any other time. I know
Oh,
I'm gonna
yes.
work on it too.
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, definitely. And one thing also, which is going to help you flourish, be yourself. Be
Mhm.
you, because everybody else is taken. Be
Yes.
yourself. And let me preface this with being yourself means something we talked about earlier, being your best self.
Mhm.
Don't be yourself and it's rude and just whatever the heck
It's
goes
just
and you
me. You don't want
accept
that.
me as I am. No, no, no,
Mm,
no, no, no. We're not talking about being yourself like that. We're talking about you being authentic, but you're being it in a way where you're not necessarily focusing on meeting other people's expectations, but you definitely are focusing on representing the best of yourself. And so
mhm.
when you show up and you're being yourself, you can flourish. It's easier to walk into a room and be like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm chilling, I'm the quiet
Mhm.
type. And it's okay for you to be quiet. That's being yourself.
Mhm.
Or, maybe you're the boisterous type. And as long as you're boisterous and you're still representing the best part of yourself. And again, we want to
Mhm.
encourage people. Being yourself doesn't mean where you're at. Meaning, if you're in a bad state, you just don't. Well, people need to accept me as I am. They can, if it's your best self. We don't want to get in the habit where we're accepting people where they're at and it's not good. It's not, they're not in a
Mhm.
good place. And we're just like, oh, I'm just, I'm accepting them where they're at. We should always want better for ourselves and for other people. And so when you show up in your best self, generally the people around you will also show up in their best selves as well. Just like when you see someone showing up in their best self, you're like, oh man, I need to tighten up. I need to, kind of be my best self as well. So, yes, be
Mhm.
yourself. Be yourself.
And then next, you have to know your worth. Setting, girl. Know your worth. So if we don't like ourselves much, we can really struggle with flourishing. You have to like yourself enough, or flourishing is going to be real hard for you in 2024. So when you get up in the morning and you look at yourself and you say, self, look, and you on this side, of course, of the mirror. It's like, you see on the movie sometime where the person in the mirror is talking to
Right.
you. Sometimes you
Yes.
might be feeling a certain way, but look at yourself in the mirror and speak and be that positive side of you, that positive energy of you. So knowing your worth, you have to start to feel better about yourself in order for your life to increase, in order for you to flourish. And so practicing these skills, self-compassion for yourself and reversing the negative talk, the negative speak, this is a good place to start. So
Woo,
that negative energy, they say
woo.
really that takes you back so many steps when you say something negative about yourself versus positive, like, and even just to catch up, you got to say 3 times, 4 times more positive things in order to catch you back up and for you to move forward. So look at yourself in the mirror,
Yes.
talk positive thoughts,
Yes.
speak. I remember one year I had like affirmations like all over the mirror, like do whatever it is that's going to give you that, that energy, that
Oh,
sort of energy to
yes.
come. Yeah, that's how sometimes you put little notes around for, moms to put it in their kids' lunch or whatever, whatever. Sometimes you have to write your note to your own self, and it's okay. And it might be in your wallet, it might be in your book, it might
That's
be on
right.
your computer, your laptop when you open it up, or, I have this another goal of mine for this year, to do my I am collection. And so this is part of an inspiration for your own self. So I am, and you fill in the blank. This is something like I've been working on for a couple of years. So think about that. Just start with I am, and fill in the blank. What are you? Who are you?
Yes. I love this also because, for me, when I hear know your worth, I'm thinking business as well.
Yes.
Don't be having no business and you charging people pennies on a dollar. Okay,
This the coach talking, y'all.
okay. Don't do that to yourself because the value that you're giving people is beyond those dollars. And you have to
Mhm,
really ask yourself, why am I giving away my gift? Because that's what you're doing. You're giving away a gift. And you have to ask yourself, why are you not happy? Because oftentimes when you're doing that, you'll find that you're not living in a space of happiness.
mhm.
Because if you knew the value of it, you wouldn't give it away. That's one thing. And
Right.
then you would charge what you are worth, and you would be okay with charging what you are worth. So know
Mhm,
that too. So know your worth also
mhm,
when it comes to business. And so next, get your needs met. Okay. I say this all the time. Needs must be met. Wants can be compromised. Needs
mhm,
must be met in so much that when you're a human being, and I was sharing this earlier too, you are a human being. Your human needs have to be met, period. And what happens sometimes in even relationships, people will go outside of the relationship to get their needs met.
mhm.
Has nothing to do with, well, it does have something to do with other things, but remembering that when people's needs need to be met, they will go outside of, they will do whatever is necessary to get their needs met. And we know that we have principles and morals that we stand on, but oftentimes people always want their needs met. This is so, so important. So making sure that your needs are exactly that: food, clothing, shelter,
Yes.
emotional needs, spiritual needs, physical needs. Those cannot be deprived of. You cannot go without any of those things. That's one thing that Maslow's law talks about, that, right? Um, the
Mhm,
core the core physiological needs are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Everyone wants to feel connected in some kind of way.
mhm,
Everyone wants to feel that they are valued. Everyone wants to feel like, I'm connected to someone in some kind of way. Everyone wants to feel like
mhm,
I am important. I am somebody. And competence is the sense that we're using effectively our own capabilities, meaning that in this world, I have skills that I can use and I can show up in this world as myself, and people will see the benefit of that.
mhm.
Um, yeah, so again, Maslow's law talking about the basic needs, the theory that these are the main things that we need to feel happy and fulfilled. So when you start thinking about homeless people, one of the things that they are not getting is shelter. And what ends up
Mhm.
happening is mentally, their mental stability immediately begins to deteriorate. And I've told people this several times. It's like the reason that their mental stability deteriorates is because, number one, these are basic needs. And when your basic needs are not met,
Mm.
mentally, you have to be in a place that is unhealthy because you can't live in a situation that is not safe. So, really, you lose your mental stability just so that you can survive living on the street as a homeless person, because a
Mm.
sane person can't do it. And really, it seems strange, but it really is a mercy that that happens. But again, as people begin to pull their lives back together, they then have to seek counsel and therapy and help to get back to a healthier space.
Yes. So, man, I'm
That
just
was
thinking like that was deep one. Yeah. That's like trying to segue into the next one from that. That's very thought provoking. Yeah. Social awareness is really important. That's
yes,
just like a whole nother level, just thinking about, yes, especially think about when it's cold outside, and think
mhm,
about those people who are less fortunate,
yes,
just a lot of things that they don't have, and whatever it is that took them there, and sometimes the people who are on the street, they maybe used to have a grand amount of things,
yeah,
used
mhm,
to be wealthy or whatever. We don't know. Everybody's got their own story. So
yeah,
this kind of goes back to making me think about the kindness that we spoke of earlier and the volunteering. So just doing whatever you can do. And sometimes even like the kind words that Naima mentioned, making a little prayer or your affirmation or putting something down that you're writing down and giving it to somebody on the street. That's another way of helping people that you see out there, giving them a kind word. Sometimes when we give them, their lunches, we're also with Sisters United, members of Sisters United. And every Sunday, there's a group that's going out to feed. So even putting notes in there to be able to say something, give them something to uplift them, to help them feel good about themselves. And Naima, you
Mm.
look like you're frozen. I don't know. I can hear
I
your
am
voice.
frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you say so that's good. But yeah, you look like you're frozen. But we're gonna
I
move to the next one. The
am.
next one is setting meaningful goals. You have your goals and visions, and of course, we all go through this every January 1st, especially wanting to set new goals. This is something that you're definitely going to need in order to flourish in 2024. Okay,
Mhm.
meaningful life goals. Would you
Yes.
say, Naima?
I said yes.
Okay. Again, your screen is still frozen, but I can hear you. So we got half of you right now. That's good.
Okay. Okay.
So you want to be able to work towards your goals and get a better understanding on just what really matters to you, and how to pursue the meaning more easily through 2024. So setting
Mhm.
meaningful goals. Naima, did you have anything you want to say about setting meaningful goals?
Yeah. When you set a goal, making sure, girl, I cannot believe this is happening. Anyway, but when you set a goal, making sure that the goal bumps up to a bigger place that you want to be. So
Mhm,
when I like to talk to people about setting goals, the goal is really about who you want to be. Again, we talked about this earlier, and that
mhm,
goal is just a part of that, who you want to be and how you want to live. And so when you're setting goals, again, making sure that they're small, measurable, and things like that. And
mhm,
you can also do BHAGs, as we like, the big, hairy,
mhm.
audacious goals. But when you do those BHAGs, remembering that everything can't be a BHAG, it has to be one or
Okay.
two in your efforts for the following year. And then the really, really big ones, of course, it's going to be scary and all of that stuff. But you want to make sure that when you're doing it, it's actually bringing about courage and strength
Yeah.
within you to allow for you to do some of those smaller goals. And the goals, again, are leading you to a bigger place and a bigger end. So
And
yes.
oftentimes too, they say, if you set yourself goals and you actually reach each and every one of them, that's another sign that you need to set a higher goal, because oftentimes we may not necessarily reach them. But if, not to say that you can't, but that
Right.
go ahead and stretch yourself even further, because you got this, you did that, and now let's just stretch it out a little bit more. We got you back. Yay.
I don't know what's happening. The internet is acting crazy. Okay. So, with that being said,
Over there.
right. So setting meaningful goals. The 11th one, we're almost done, everybody. The 11th one is,
Uh-oh, say that one more
woo,
time.
I said the we're almost done.
That's okay. Now
And
you're
so,
back.
yeah,
Wait a
the
minute. Start
next one,
over. Mhm.
yeah, so I was saying we're almost done.
Okay. Okay.
And the next one that we have coming up is go to therapy.
Mm,
I got to say this again. Go to therapy. Go to therapy. Stop walking around like you are healed and you are not.
mm.
Stop acting like you don't have issues that need to be addressed. Let me tell you, if someone says something to you and you are triggered, you need to go to therapy.
Mm.
If every problem you have is because someone did it to you or someone else did it, it's not, nothing is ever your responsibility. You need to go to therapy. If every time you have an argument, it's always an argument instead of a conversation with someone, you need to go to therapy. If people
Mhm.
say that you always are angry or you all lash out, you need to go to therapy. It's just so many different signs that say, hey, you need to go to therapy. And there is absolutely nothing wrong
Nothing
with going to
with it.
therapy. You need it.
That's right.
You need
Mhm.
it for your mental stability. You need it to remove yourself from previous traumas. You need it to remove yourself of thinking that it's not healthy, that you constantly are thinking in a pattern that basically destroys your relationships. Go to therapy. Go to therapy. Go
Mm.
to therapy. Go to therapy. Multiple kinds of therapy. If you something happened to you as a young person, go to therapy. You all you're doing is walking around in that young person body as an adult. Go to therapy, please.
Mhm. Yeah, and a lot of times when people think about therapy, they're like, most people want to run away from it. It's
Yeah,
okay. Like even if you don't, even if you're not in a place in your life where you feel like you're very challenged, it's good to do something like even quarterly, just making
mhm,
a connection with
yeah,
someone. And then I know a young lady who every year on her birthday, even if she hasn't done it throughout the year, that's one of her gifts to herself is to get
mhm,
therapy. And so I think
yeah,
that's really a beautiful thing to practice.
yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
sometimes you don't really know certain things that have an impact on you until you start to really talk about it and things you do,
Yeah,
or we can be in a session and it's like stuff that hit you a certain way. So, like you said, things that may trigger you based on what might be happening. So I would definitely encourage, everyone to get some sessions in this year, 2024. Go to
yeah.
therapy. Go to therapy. Go to therapy.
Go to therapy.
Because
Okay,
you want to
yes,
flourish. You want to flourish. And lastly, of course, believe in yourself. Believe that you can do it. Believing
yes,
is the magic in it. You want to believe, believing is the evidence that you need for your own self. Um,
yes,
that this thing can happen. So our positive expectations, they actually do help us to lead into positive outcomes. And so remember we talked about earlier about negativity. We want to get that out of there. So you can't be negative believing that you can, right? No,
that
you got to
part.
be positive. So yeah. So you got to be able to believe. This is one of the abilities that's going to help you to flourish even greater, which is pretty much we wanted to talk to you guys about living a life in a flourishing way. So that's one of our last words of advice is believing in yourself. And believing in
Yeah,
yourself will help you encourage somebody else to believe in themselves as well.
yes,
So
yes,
passing on that energy. So
yes. And one way to really to see if you well, we have what's called ATNs, which is automatic ants. I'm sorry, we have ants in our brains, which are
mhm.
automatic negative thoughts. And they weren't there in the beginning. They've gotten there because of social media and because of the news and because of how
Mm,
people talk regularly. These ants have basically infiltrated our brains. So now what we want to do is we want to begin to erase those ants, which is the automatic negative thoughts, and begin to automatically change that thought to a positive thought. So this is how you can believe you can.
mm,
So if you are the type of person that anytime something you think about something, you're always thinking the negative,
mm.
meaning what's wrong? Well, everything's just bad. Like who did it?
Mhm,
But those kinds of things. Those
mhm,
are experiences that you've had that have had a negative effect on you. But now what you want to do is begin to train your brain to reverse those negative thoughts into positive thoughts. And that's how we believe that you can. And as the more that you practice that, the more easier it becomes. And 2024 is going to be a life full of flourishing things happening for you. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
So I want to go down a list that I have, which is going to touch on some of the 12 things that we kind of talked about, but setting meaningful goals, prioritizing your well-being, cultivating positive relationships. We talked about how we need to have that. So cultivating positive relationships, having continuous learning. When you're whatever it is that you're doing, when you just want to continue learning, embracing new knowledge, all of that is going to be very helpful. Having a work-life balance and practicing that gratitude, of course, that we spoke on earlier, and mindfulness and presence, being in the moment. I'll never forget I have this birthday card my father gave me many, many years ago. And that's one of the things it talks about, like, when you look and see about the things that you don't have now, but think about what you do have and live in that moment and appreciate that thing, which pretty much goes back to gratitude. So
Yeah.
embracing the challenges. Like we all gonna be challenged in life. You know,
Oh,
going back to my
mhm.
9-year-old again, I tell him just, they say, oh, this is hard. But because it's hard, is it impossible? It's not impossible. So let's
That's
push a little
right.
harder, you know. And so it was yeah, that was funny. He was trying to learn how to unlock a door. It was his door, but he was actually picking the lock. And so after so then I did it for him. And then he went back. Cause you know, it's one of those doors and the house doors that you have to put a
With
little
the
thing in the hole.
whole, yes, I love it.
And so he felt so good because he's like, I did it 3 times. So he just kept practicing. So challenges, embrace the challenges. I'm encouraging you. Financial planning. This is one of the things that we always kind of talk about, you know, at the beginning of the year. We're thinking about our finances. And then also like embracing your hobbies and your passions. Like sometimes we have these things that we want to do,
Yeah, do
that we
it.
never get to it. You
Do
know,
it.
it's like, yeah, take that time out for you. And just effective time management. You know, when Naima mentioned earlier about we had our vision party yesterday, that's one of the things that we talked about heavily is scheduling, no matter what it is, whether it's, you know, what it's going to take to
Self-care.
prep your,
Mhm.
yeah, your self-care, you know, whether that's exercise, whatever it is, um time management, and then self-reflection, having that
Mhm.
time for doing that self-care, self-reflection. And then also don't forget, we call this the cow when I was with Fortune Builders, celebrating all wins. So
Mm,
celebrate your achievements, you
that's
know,
right. You know I love
small
wins.
wins and the big ones. Yeah. So because every step of the way is gonna, you know, one of the other things that reminds me of what we talked about yesterday, and Nafisa spoke a lot on that. And I said that's what's called reverse engineering. Look at your bigger picture of what it is that you want to do,
Yes.
and start to work backwards and then, you know, on a month to month, week to week, day to day, all the way down to the hour on
Yeah.
what it is you need to do, and then evaluate yourself on a day-to-day basis. Did I get this done? Am I on track to be able to get to this point by December 2024? So look
Yes.
at that.
All those good things. And the last thing I want to say is make sure that you are not in your own way.
Hmm.
That's so important. No one else is in your way but you. So when you start thinking about if your life is not flourishing, you have to ask yourself, what inside of me is not healthy, happy, flourishing, right?
Yes.
And change that so that you can begin to live a flourishing life. And one thing, in the Quran, it's فَبِأَيَّ Allah رَبِّكُمْ تُكَذِّبَانِ. It says, and which of the favors of your Lord will you deny, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
meaning itself is fabih, meaning it's internal, it's inside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So Allah already has said it when He starts talking about which of the favors will you deny. He already knows it is something internal inside of yourself that is causing you to deny the signs and or favors of Allah. It's not
And
anyone
listen,
else. It's
every
you.
area, yes, every area that we spoke about today, that's that thing that we really can say in our minds. When you, even when you look in the mirror, looking in the mirror, which of the
Yes.
favors of your Lord will you deny in
Yes.
everything that you do when you're working?
Yes.
So that's a good cap on
Yes.
it. Which of the favors of my Lord will I deny? None of it. You
That's
don't want to
right.
deny anything. Hmm.
Nothing. None of it.
Bring it
And
on.
don't forget, get your share of this
Hmm.
life and the hereafter. So,
Me.
while we're getting our share of this life, we hope that you will follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And until next week, Happy New Year, Crown
Happy New
Nation. We look
Year.
forward to seeing you all in 2024. Let's turn it up. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Peace
Alaikum
out.
assalam.